you offer me a job and I find out my manager, my direct supervisor is going to be a minority, babe, keep that DEI hire and keep that job offer too. I prefer to work under white men, okay? White, middle-aged, men with a family, AARP eligible, the ones that got the AAA, the ones that eat off the IHOP 55 plus menu, you know what I mean? The Medicare eligible ones, give me that. Give me that. Because as far as I'm concerned, the minorities, they like to make you pay back the dues that they had to pay in 1987 when they first got their job as the model minority. And they want to make sure that you have to do it too. Meanwhile, white man, he sees me, he goes, yep, let me give you this special project. What do you need? What's going to advance your career? How can I help you? None of the passive aggressiveness, none of the micromanaging, none of that extra shit, right? Give me Jim, Bob, Bill, give me that. Don't give me the minority, because as far as I'm concerned, anybody that looks like me or identifies as somebody who would be a DEI hire, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not with it. I'm not with it. Y'all got a chip on y'all shoulder that I personally do not have the brain power to deal with. So as far as I'm concerned, hand me to the nearest white man.
I have to agree. I think that once I let my ego go and I was able to ascend to some of the highest levels of corporate America, before I pivoted, obviously, I had always been working on my businesses, and then content creation was a thing. I will tell you that not just white men, but white women, I'll get to the white women shortly, but a white man, and I remember him vividly, he drove an Escalade, he went to the University of Michigan, he was one of the most impactful managers that I've ever had in my entire life. I would venture to say he was the most impactful manager. And he taught me a lot. And at first, he was holding me accountable because he felt as though I was underselling myself and that my attitude wasn't as conducive as it needed to be in order to be a cultural fit. And then he gave me a couple books to read, and he forced me to actually be accountable for myself. And when I went back and I made some adjustments and I realized what he was really trying to do, he was trying to help me, it wound up being one of the most beneficial situations ever. He actually helped me to elevate. He even helped my daughter with some stuff. And at the time, she was really, really young, really, really small. And it was one of the most impactful people, and I still stay in touch with him today. Conversely, also, it was a white woman that gave me the biggest start in my career when I first started getting into information technology as a software engineer. And she actually helped me on her deathbed. She was dying of cancer. Nobody knew she was dying of cancer. And she made sure that she pushed me through and that she gave me the best deal and the best package that she possibly could before she died. And so when I see people talk about racism and that all white people are evil or nasty, I don't experience it. I don't know that. I don't know that life. I've never seen somebody that is white hold me down. I've had managers. I've never had a black man manager. Let me say that. I've had black women managers, and that was the worst experience that I've ever had in my entire life. And I don't hold it against them. I don't say that all black women managers are bad or anything like that. I think that everybody is their own individual and nobody's a monolith. I think that this conversation more or less speaks to the idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. Meaning that if you hire people based off of identity politics instead of based off of merit, often at times you're going to find yourself in a negative situation or on the other side of that stick. There was another woman that actually replied to this, and so she gave her insight and her understanding as to what her experience is after watching her video. And let me show you what she had to say.
This video triggered me because I want so badly for her to be wrong. My very own lived experience is that the two people who were responsible for my career literally launching off the platform were named Corey and Phil. And yes, they were. If you're asking me what they were, go back and watch her video. But yep, they were. And when I tell you special projects, temporary assignments, mentoring, everything that I needed to move forward in my career, the leaps and bounds that I took were when I was underneath a Corey and a Phil. And that is what.
And so when I see people automatically say that it's a system or they won't push you through, I know that in most instances that it's probably something wrong with you, not wrong with everybody else. It's not a they problem. It may be a you problem, but it certainly isn't a they problem. Most people that are successful, especially men, And again, I have to preface this by saying that I never worked under a black man before. But several of my mentors are white, and several of the people that had an impact in launching my career were white men. And they have always pushed me to be successful, always pushed me to be successful. I have experienced another manager that I just don't think that he was as good as his job, as good at his job because he had been pushed into that position. And he just wasn't a good manager. It wasn't necessarily that he had anything against me, but he just wasn't a good manager. I've learned that diversity, equity, and inclusion is just overrated. It is. It's an overrated concept. To think that somebody is going to be a good person based off of identity is the dumbest shit that I've ever heard in my entire life. To think that somebody is going to hold you back because of your identity is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. Whether it's the neighborhood that you live in or the corporate infrastructure in which you have to navigate through, I think that it's all based off of whether or not you're just doing what you're supposed to do. You take care of business, you're a nice person, and you're a cultural fit. Cultural fit don't even mean like how you wear your hair or anything like that. Cultural fit could just be the attitude that you have and whether or not you're a team player when you get into a corporate environment. And so, my experiences have taught me to not judge a book by its cover, but to judge a book by the content that's on the pages. And so, but there's another narrative, a completely different narrative, and I want to make sure that we address all narratives. Check this out.
Tony Childs hopped on the internet and says she prefers to work for white men. Don't give her the DEI hire. She wants a white man telling her what to do. She prefers to make sure that a white man is the one who is leading over her. And honey, I have to tell you something. The reason that you prefer that is not the way you think it is. Quite honestly, it's the quite opposite. You're not a threat to that white man's position. That's why you are more likely to feel successful, because he's going to work more with you because he sees you more as his assistant in servitude, if you will. And this is not for everyone. I'm not saying this is like that for everywhere. But quite honestly, go ahead, give me the minority company. Let me work with minorities. I quite honestly prefer diversity. I don't know what Tony was saying, but I rather work with diversity because people know struggle. You have to understand that what you work around and what you put your career around, that is a direct reflection on what you're willing to put up with, honey. And that to me wasn't she wasn't eating what she thought.
So, of course, you're always going to have the other people, and I wanted to make sure that everybody that reacted to this video that I use as an example were cut from the same cloth. They were women of color. So some women are still going to prefer diversity and not just somebody that's good at their job. Has nothing to do with the job itself, has nothing to do with how they feel about the job. It all has everything to do with identity politics. And again, I think that that's short-sighted. I really do think that that's short-sighted. If I was to ever go back into corporate America, miss me with the diversity. I want the best person for the job. One of the things that she said is that you're not a threat. Nobody should be looking at anybody as a threat from that lens, especially if they're a subordinate. My goal, and I can tell certain people that haven't really achieved the highest levels of corporate America, my goal is to replace myself. I am supposed to be preparing you for the next opportunity or for you to take my job and all of that stuff. If I'm doing my job correctly, then I'm grooming you and I'm giving you projects and I'm teaching you how to navigate, but to also how to replace yourself. So that, and trust me, in leadership, when you're able to groom employees to do a better job or to replace you, not only are you looked at as gold, but you're also doing a thing that is best for corporate America because you want to continue to raise up people that's within the company to ultimately become the best person for the company. That's just my opinion of it. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.